Hello, everybody out there in the Bodhanaverse and all points beyond. Welcome to the Bodhana Cast, featuring both of us, I guess.
Yeah,
Right?
great intro, man. Solid.
Yes. I've been working on it, like in my spare time and whatnot, So,
Well, whatever you're doing, it's paid off.
Oh, right. Those lessons that I've been having with Seth Meyers, that's a total lie. I don't know Seth Meyers at all. I would love to know him. So, Seth, if you're out there, hit me up on the tweets, bruh. But no, sincerely, I am one of your hosts, Jack Birkenstock Jr. I am the executive director, one of the founders of the Bodhana Group. I also dwell in a nerdy cavern protected by the elders of then as opposed to now. That teetering brink of time known as 1997, before of which is most of where Jack's pop culture knowledge resides.
And I am son of Pencilhead. I'm James Kirk. I am the other host of the Bodhana Cast. Longtime caster, no time caller. Because I'm
caster, like a fisherman, like a caster.
Yeah, fishers of men. That's That's
if you follow me.
I mean, if you're into Jesus.
That's how the song goes.
Yeah. So how are you, Jack? Welcome to the show.
Oh, absolutely. Great to be on. Hoping we get some folks out there in TV land or whatnot, as you call it. We got some great stuff to go over today. And of course, if you're not familiar with the Bodhana Cast and what it is, this is a monthly show where James and I get the chance to talk a little bit about the therapeutic stuff, which is what we mostly chat about in our professional scheme. But this is a time where we kind of, if we have hair, let it down. And we talk about all kinds of things nerdy. We can cover board games or RPG, movies, TV, comics, video games, all kinds of cool stuff that we talk about, and we eventually loop it around, have a whole bunch of fun in. I don't know, as far as what I've been up to lately.
Yeah, let's talk about that. What you been doing?
I don't know. What you doing? How you doing?
I'm sitting here talking to you.
Oh, you asked me first. That's right.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So, I mean, professional wise, of course, we are gearing up with a lot of awesome stuff for Bodhana this month. You are anybody out there is in the Lancaster area. The Bodhana Group will be at Zenkai Con in Lancaster later on this month over the weekend of the 25th through the 27th. We are going to be providing some awesome game fare. I'm going to be running some sessions of the old West End Games Ghostbusters role-playing game, one of my perennial favorites, and actually the first RPG that I ever played. So I'm going to be running some sessions on that. We're also going to be doing some play tests of our upcoming system, Branch Riders, also over that weekend. And you are also doing some special things there, ain't you, James?
Yeah, so I'm going to be running a tournament for Disney's Villainous. We had talked about that on the first episode of the Bodhana Cast.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm actually going to be running a tournament. People are going to be randomly assigned. Randomly assigned a villain, and they'll compete for fabulous not cash prizes.
So they will be able to be chilling with their villain.
Yes,
as
but just the one. Goes. But just the one.
Hey. Yeah, it's going to be absolutely awesome. The Villainous tournament. Yeah, it's going to be a host of fun. It's also one of our first live convention appearances since 2021, because I think the last con that we did in person was, if I am correct, in person, I think it was Sci-Fi Valley Con was the last one that we were at, which we're going to be at again this year too.
We were on a really good clip there with like appearances and doing discussions and workshops and things, and
then something came
like
up.
nothing's gonna stop us from bringing our message to the masses. And then COVID said, "Hold my beer."
COVID? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
COVID? I don't.
Yeah, it was a whole thing.
A whole.
It's why you've been. Okay. Everybody, I'm really sorry about this. Just give us a second.
I'm
Jack.
just in my living room, just doing.
Jack.
Yeah.
Okay, so there was a global pandemic.
Okay.
There was a.
It was zombies, wasn't it?
Sure. If that helps you to understand, sure.
That's why we were playing Back for Blood.
Right. And then people told us to stay home. And then we realized after staying home that it's actually not so bad. And that it's okay if we do that. And then we started doing things online more.
I'm sorry, I totally broke the bit, dude.
And then we
Ugh.
discovered that unlike what Avenue Q would have had us believe, the internet is not just for porn. Also correct, there was toilet paper hoarding. That was a thing.
There was.
I panicked today because I wasn't expecting as much snow as what fell outside of our houses today. And I wasn't sure how in Pennsylvania I was going to survive a snowstorm because I had not purchased bread, eggs, or ketchup. And I didn't know.
Wait, did you already have milk?
Yeah.
Because you have to have your stuck indoors French toast, of course. There's a joke no one else has used ever.
Yeah. We actually had hot chocolate.
Nice.
Made hot chocolate for the kiddos.
Very nice.
They were really excited. They went outside to go sledding. And that was when we I knew, but it hadn't really been put into practice. I don't own boots anymore that fit me because after the surgery and some of the weight loss, my feet shrunk. I went from a size 12.5 to a size 9. Or maybe like 9.5. Yeah. About like 3 inches on my feet.
Wow. I didn't realize the feet shrinkage as well.
Dude, it was one of the first things that happened that I was like, what is going on here? Because my sneakers just like slid around while I was like I had to go get all new footwear.
You're like, am I in a Marvel comic? Have I been given some injection where I'm the Incredible Shrinking Man? You're the Atom.
It was a thing.
Not the Flash. Although in the 1960s and early 70s, the Flash would shrink down his molecules to.
Jack, have you been playing any new games lately? Anything new you want to talk about?
I actually did want to talk about 2 other things. One, Jen, my lovely wife, and also like our one of our like general office managers, if you will, of Bodhana, we did a lot of. She put a ton of work into redoing our website. So now the Bodhana Group website, we've redesigned it so we'll make it a lot easier for folks to find the information that they're looking for. It's kind of one of those, we wanted to go a little bit away from just like wall o text, but people need to know stuff. Well, but people need to be able to better choose what they want to know. So what we do is we have a guide to the Bodhanaverse page, which can find you all the quick links. So if you want to talk about our child services, you can go to that specific area. If you want to talk or go to our professional services, you can find this information a lot easier now on the website because we have some announcements that we're going to be popping through. Not only that, but the other announcement, if you are part of our email list, which you can go onto our website to sign up for, you would have been one of the lucky participants and recipients of the latest edition of Initiative, the Bodhana Monthly Newsletter. This month, of course, because our Bodhana Brigade is focusing all about James's favorite area of board games to talk about, critical thinking. That's what we're celebrating this month. It's in every game. It absolutely is in every game. But we just have a whole cool set of articles that are in there, as well as a shout out to Brian Waltersdorf and Comic Store West, who is our feature Bodhana Brigade FLGS of the month of March. So we're going into those ads with Bri. So join up, sign up every month. There will be a fun little newsletter with talk about, different games and what it can benefit. And this month's game that I suggested in the newsletter is Mastermind. You ever play I'm gonna get like you ever play the Mastermind there, James? You ever play it?
Yeah. I played it with Andre the Giant.
He just looked at me and I automatically told him the code. So, he won. But no, I felt it was worthwhile to talk about Mastermind as a critical thinking game because it's really cool. You have a code master who sets like a little code with 4 color pegs, and you have to make guesses on it to try to figure out the code by them saying yes, no, maybe so, right spot, whatever. And I think it's timely because it's kind of like the Wordle thing that you've seen, the Wordle, the enemy of a smooth Facebook crawl, Wordle, because
Right.
everyone wants to tell you about how many steps. I've played Wordle. Okay.
You're welcome, 30th PA.
Yes. What is this? What for following?
Just like the great Mark Henry once said, often in wrestling, "That's what I'll do." All right.
Yeah. So that's most of it. We do have some upcoming slots. You and I are going to be offering some new game groups, an adult group as well as a new child group. So stay tuned to All Points Bodhana to get all of the cool stuff there. I think that's most of the major Bodhana news, is it not, James?
But what you been doing?
Me been doing stuff.
I mean, I know we are ultimately here to shill for ourselves.
Oh, absolutely.
But what have you been doing?
I have been playing a lot of I have been getting ready, and I'm sure we're going to talk about this later. I have been waiting with bated breath for the end of this month to happen, not just for con appearances, but to dive back into the wonderment that is Borderlands. So in the meantime, we're absolutely so stoked about Tiny Tina.
Yeah, but I think we might actually set up some streaming for that, everybody. Because I think that would be fun. Maybe even plan to stream our first experience with it.
I like that.
Maybe.
Yeah. So until then, I'm doing what I'm doing mostly in video games, which are I still am very much in love with Metroidvania games, roguelites. I've been playing one called Ziggurat 2. It's a sequel, obviously, not just a clever title, to Ziggurat, a game that was out a while ago.
For a second, I was like, wait, it's a game that's like, the whole theme of it is like, yes, I also am a Ziggurat.
Ziggurat 2. But yeah, it's a first-person thing where you go master blasting through these randomly generated catacombs with monsters and stuff, and they've added a story mode, which is cool because you like unlock different characters. So it's a really cool game for, I think it's only like maybe $20 on Xbox, which is really good,
I also know, and I went on to the Game Pass to download this, but it wasn't on there, so maybe it was something that you have to purchase. You've also been playing a game that somewhat intrigued me called Conan Chop Chop.
Yes. Oh my God! It's so
which you
cool.
described to me as Castle Crashers, but Conan.
Yes.
This sounds great.
I'll make it even tastier. So it's Castle Crashers, Conan lore, but the animation style looks like Cyanide and Happiness. So imagine this big Conan head with flowing locks and a big chest, but he has like, the thin black arms and legs as he walks. So yeah, it's
pretty much what I see when I look in the mirror in the morning. I got you. Go ahead.
Yeah. Wait, you have little sticky arms?
What? Yeah.
Okay. So no, it's a great game. The whole thing is that
now you have to purchase it, right?
You have to purchase it. Yeah, it's not part of the pass. I think it's 20.
That almost seems worth it if Tiny Tina's wasn't coming out in 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those that like
I'll get it later.
It's not one you have to rush out and get, but again, to me, it's one of those brainless hack and slash. I don't have to focus on anything. It's very much like it's a very self-care video game because it's brainless, it's mindless. I do have to finish my Guardians of the Galaxy though. I haven't gotten back to that. I haven't finished that yet. Yeah, I haven't gotten back to it yet.
It's not. It really does not have like much in the way of replay value unless you wanted to go through and try to make different choices. And yeah, that's correct. That one is on the pass now.
We're mentioning current games. Ooh, actually, because I know who Silent Bob RST is, I actually downloaded, what is it, Generation Zero? The Robot Hunter?
I heard about this.
It seems interesting. I at first I'm kind of like, dang, robots, like your bullets don't do anything. But then I'm like, can Jack at the tender age of 49 learn a stealth game?
So, speaking of games that we've been playing, so
what you been doing now that I've been
I
gabbing for 20 minutes?
I went fully back into Assassin's Creed. I had played every Assassin's Creed up through Black Flag as close to 100% completion as I could, all the DLCs. I was mad for these games.
Mad? Insane?
I just kind of fizzled on them because they started coming like really quickly. And then there were off console Assassin's Creeds, and there were more like it was a lot, right?
It was too much.
Ubisoft had a bundle several months ago that was Origins and Odyssey. And I had been told that starting with Assassin's Creed Origins, that they had like kind of changed the gameplay up, that it felt like it was still Assassin's Creed, but it feels fresh, it feels different.
Okay.
There's a new out of the Animus storyline that's going on, along with the like inside the Animus stuff, which I really liked. I loved following Desmond Miles. Until the not wholly unexpected, but like still kind of jarring conclusion of his story. Like he was like,
is it long enough to be out of spoiler country? Because we will have some spoilerific reviews tonight, will we not, James?
Yeah, probably will. Like when Desmond dies, I was like, but there's so much going on outside of the Animus stuff when you're in the game playing as these historical people. Like there's this whole other thing that's happening, the modern day war between the assassins and the Templars. Like I want to like what is going on out here, and now they have a new character, Layla, that you can follow.
Does she got you on your knees?
Yeah, thank you, Clapton. And Origins did play really well. I enjoyed it a lot. And now I'm playing Odyssey, and boy, is that fun as hell. But oh my God, was that jarring.
You're a pretty big history buff, though, ain't you?
I really do enjoy like historical like period pieces, and I like those alternate histories where they can take some artistic license or some creative license with the history and do different things with it. They're focusing a lot on Odyssey focuses on the lineage of King Leonidas.
Okay.
Which in the game is pronounced Leonidas. Which is it's just weird to hear in my ears, but I'm pretty sure
Leonidas anymore.
Sorry. I'm super stoked about getting to Valhalla after this. But I'm really taking my time with Odyssey because they're doing some very cool things.
Silent Bob just mentioned Valhalla.
Yeah,
in the chat.
There's a whole like cult in Odyssey, and it's not like Assassin's Creed Origins. It was, here's these 4 people, kill them. Okay, now here's 3 more people, you have to kill them. Right. Okay, now there's 2 more. Guess what? Kill them.
It's like reverse bowling.
So Odyssey has this entire cult that has like 30 odd members or so in the game. But after a certain point in the game, you only know who like 6 or 7 of them are. So you have to hunt them down.
Wow.
Murder, death, kill them. And then they give you clues to then figure out who the other people are.
So it's even not like, because another game that I loved back in the day, and I devoured the sucker, was Shadow of Mordor.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where it had the progressive, like if you got beat by this guy, you weren't dead, but he got stronger, and it had like the whole pantheon of
Right, he got
you had to
promoted.
battle
You
through.
were like, oh my God, you killed the hero.
Right, good deal. And I was like, wow, that was absolutely freaking
That's
amazing.
really good to know in Valhalla, because I really like that a lot. It doesn't just feel like the open world, like point click, okay, now I got to go here, and now I got to go here.
Right.
I also told Odyssey there's an option in the gameplay where like they will just put quest markers wherever you need them to go, or you can actually do like a seek and find where they will tell you, okay, you want to complete this quest, cool, you're looking for the island of Argos. The place that you're looking for is on the western side of the island in the abandoned forest.
My home's
Look
in the
for
west
a
side
large set
Argos.
of doors, and like as you're
Okay.
looking, they'll eventually have like question marks on there, which they mark on maps as like unidentified locations.
Okay.
But you still kind of have to look on the map and be like, okay, generally, where am I going?
Oh, so it's not like, left click the stick and it shows the glittery path, like everyone knows when you need to get somewhere.
Yeah.
I've always imagined question marks on maps are just very confused people wandering around that you have to run into at random.
I've really been like super heavy into Assassin's Creed. That's been my jam. Kind of waiting for other stuff to come out. I get my brand new, really pretty shiny TV this week, and as soon as I get that, I will be diving into Elden Ring. I don't have anything to say yet. I will have something to say on our next broadcast for that. So really looking forward to diving into that too. And then on a
I've heard good things about. I know that Brother Bear, he's been playing Elden Ring and kind of like, not too shabby, first time playing. So I'm like, oh God, is this going to be absolutely hard?
Yeah. So tabletop wise, I got to try out Fantasy Flight's The Outer Rim. It's a Star Wars board game. You get to play as some of the named or like marquee players. But interestingly enough, like the game was fairly current. Rogue One is an older movie at this point, but like you could play as Jyn Erso as one of the characters. Think the Firefly board game streamlined so that it's not as fiddly. And then
Fantasy Flight made a game that is not fiddly? I don't understand.
Because when they made Firefly, they went, yeah, what's 40 more tokens? It's fine. Yeah, it's a less fiddly Firefly with a Star Wars skin.
Okay.
You're going to different planets, completing jobs, carrying cargo, trying to
you got Steve already.
Yeah. So that was really cool. I enjoyed that. There were 3 of us in the game. I was the only one that actually stuck to the job that the character would have been good at. I was playing Lando. I was a smuggler. I ran a lot of cargo and I did jobs.
So I would assume you get like points and whatnot tied to your occupation. Is that like a pretty good part of it?
Well, so they're just like, they have certain advantages, right? Like Boba Fett, that one of my other friends played in the game. He demonstrated what Boba Fett would be like if he was the worst bounty hunter in the galaxy. It was just, some of it was just crap.
Wait, you mean like Boba Fett on the skiff in Return of the Jedi? It's like, come on.
Yeah.
Boba Fett, where? And then all of a sudden the Benny Hill music starts playing. Where
You can hunt bounties in the game, and there's little tokens that are associated with each of the planets. They get randomized, and they're by color. Boba Fett can actually like sneak a peek at those tokens to see what people they are, so that he can narrow down where his bounty is at.
Okay, well, he's checking in with the local informants. He's getting the lay of the land.
Yeah,
it's got to be better than the Boba Fett bounty hunter video.
The poor guy, unfortunately, had the same bounty that he started the game with, like over halfway through the game. Had no equipment.
I'm getting to it.
Starter ship. Like it was bad.
Later, we have to talk about who I have to rib, gentlemanly, of course, about this, or gentlewomanly as well. You know, that's awesome. Yeah, I don't know.
That's some of the new stuff I got to do.
Okay.
Other than that, I got full force back into Magic the Gathering. And I've just been building decks and cracking a couple of packs. That sort of thing.
Oh yeah.
So we got some stuff to talk about tonight.
We got lots of good stuff. So actually, do you want to parlay your tabletop extravaganza into our 2 focus segments? Do you want to go first?
We can do that.
Yeah. So in honor of our usual history of the Bodhana cast, we always come at you with different recommends. And what we've done in this incarnation of the Bodhana cast, differently from our original broadcast, which you can still watch on the Bodhana YouTube channel, where all of our wonderful programming will wind up. We used to one episode talk about a board game, then another episode here and there we talk about a role-playing game. What we felt we would do with this format, since we have a little bit more time to talk to folks and it's more back and forth direct, as they say, we're going to do both. So James is going to go ahead and the captain's going to start us off with one of his favorite board games that actually also fills in very well with critical thinking.
Yep. It's a sound effect. It's a sound effect that robots make. Also, which segues us into the name of the game, Clank.
Oh, I was going to say Mousetrap.
No.
Okay.
Clank is distributed and designed by Renegade Studios. Fine purveyors of tabletop gaming.
Oh my God, they're amazing.
But Clank sees the players taking on the roles of thieves, roguish folks. It is a deck building dungeon crawler. It is played on a board. There are spaces that you have to move your piece. Anybody that's played deck builders knows that you're trying to design a deck or build a deck based off of the resources that you're given on your turn, things that you can purchase. Some people will get things that you want before you get to them. Name of the game. Clank itself is very interesting in that instead of just having like the DC deck builder just has power, or Marvel Legendary, you have recruit points and attack points, right? They're 2 different things. So Clank has recruit and attack, but also move. Boots.
Bootsies. No boat goofing.
You have to generate 3 different types of resources to be successful in the game. So there's a whole other level of things that you're trying to build toward. The goal of the game is for you to go into a dungeon, and there's different maps. They have different skins. There's a map that's like the part of the dungeon is underwater, and there's a different set of cards that you can shuffle into the main deck that are all themed for the underwater thing. There's one that's a mummy's pyramid, so again, different deck of cards that you can put in with the main deck. They have one that's like the Ape Lord, so it's a lot of like monkey themed stuff.
A board
There
game
is
where apes
also
evolve from men.
there's also an entirely different base game of Clank that they set in sci-fi for Clank in Space. So instead of a dungeon, you're infiltrating the ship of a bounty hunter. Your ultimate goal in Clank is to get your hands on an artifact of some kind, something that's worth like a decent amount of victory points. And then once you have that artifact, you can either run around the dungeon, continue to collect victory points or do things, or you can just run the F away and get out and escape with all of your stuff. Right? So that's the overall goal of the game. The reason they call it Clank is because you get little wooden cubes that represent both the noise that you make when you're in the dungeon doing things, because they make it unavoidable. There are cards in the game that you can purchase as you're playing that will help to mitigate the amount that you're generating. But overall, you can't stop yourself from making Clank. Yes, question in the back. Go ahead.
Yeah. Did they have cubes that would intimate my battle cry? Did they have cubes that represent not in the face?
No, because most people have a plan when they do this. That's where the critical thinking component comes in. But thank you very much for asking.
Not a problem, Professor Kirk. I'll take my seat again.
So, when you generate Clank, you put these little cubes on the board, one for every point of Clank, and the cubes just sit on the board. They're nice. There's nothing. In Clank, there is a dragon and/or the bounty hunter that is looking for you, and will attempt to catch you. So as you purchase cards, this, like other deck builders, there's a row of cards that you can purchase from. It's called the Adventure Row. Mm-hmm. There are cards in the main deck that come out with the symbol of either the dragon, or if you're doing Clank in Space, the bounty hunter. And when that happens, it means that character attacks the players on the board. There is a bag that all of the cubes go into. It's a nice felt, like black bag. You reach your hand in, and depending on how much you've pissed off the main guy, is the number of cubes that you have to draw from the bag. Now remember, all of that Clank that you generated, all that noise that you made, that gets put into the bag along with a whole bunch of black cubes that are in there at the beginning of the game. You pull out the cubes. If your color cube gets pulled out of the bag, you got hit, you take a point of damage. So your Clank that you generate during the game increases the danger that you are in as you continue to go, because the more noise that you make, the more it's pretty obvious, like, well, I know where that guy is, right? So you try to, you have to get an artifact and then get out and survive with all of your stuff intact. That's the basics of the game.
Well, and there's so many other cool things too, especially with all the different, like, because you'll have like teleporters or like a key to get into deeper areas, because there's coins that you generate as well. And then those coins, you buy objects, and some of those objects have additional victory points. And the cards that you're buying also get victory points to the end. Yep. It's a really amazingly well-designed game. My personal favorite is Clank in Space. That's my favorite skin.
Clank in Space is really cool because they the cards got a lot more like referentially funny in Clank in Space. The OG Clank and kind of like the fantasy themed Clank, I think it was more like the artwork that was entertaining on them than necessarily the cards themselves. I was remembering Clank, there's a card called Swagger that actually gives you additional purchase points for making Clank. But it's a picture of an adventurer like combing his hair and like looking all like, looking all suave and confident. So what does this game do from a therapeutic standpoint? Like, what are its strong points? Okay, so
Good
First of
question.
all, first of all, deck builders of themselves require a certain amount of forward planning and being able to know what you're going to do or what you're going to try to do before you do it. You are not successful in deck building games if you're just like, just go with whatever's I'll go with whatever's there. There's some of that because you can't control what's going to come out into the row to purchase, or like what cards are going to be available to you. But most deck builders are pretty well balanced, that they have several different cards that will kind of do variations of the same thing to give you enough of a chance to get something that you want. And for Clank, it's about knowing when you go down into the dungeon, based on one, how long it's taken you to get down into the further, like the second half of the board.
Right.
What's available to purchase in the market that somebody else has not already bought. And really, like, there is some reaction to how the game is going. Because your plan is going to have to change at certain points. But you need to have a plan. You need to figure out the artifact that you're going to target initially.
Well, I think that for the benefit of those listeners who are maybe new to us in our conversation here, let's take just a second and just define this whole idea of critical thinking. Because as I jokingly said at the beginning of the show, this is James's favorite topic to talk about. And we say that completely tongue in cheek, right?
Yeah.
But when we say what is critical thinking, we also want to just give you a general idea of an understanding of what critical thinking means, and also why it's important. Like how, because one of the things the whole reason that Bodhana is one of the names that, it's the name that we use for organization, is Bodhana is a Sanskrit word that means leading to an awakening or an understanding. It literally is connected to enlightenment, Bodhi, Bodhisattva, the Bodhana, the Buddha. All these are root words that Bodhana is also correlated to. So the idea that we believe is that you don't have to say, okay, kids, we're going to learn all about building our brains and blah, blah, blah. So we're going to play Clank and here's today's lesson plan on it and blah, 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 blah. No, you're already falling asleep. Oh my God, our numbers went down. No, they didn't. I'm just kidding. The idea of critical thinking is, and gaming in general, is you play a game that has a certain skill set baked into the gameplay. And by playing the game and engaging with the game meaningfully, you are building and working on these very important developmental skills. And critical thinking at its heart is we need to make critical analysis and judgments based on information that we receive from our environment and sources in that environment. So we then make a plan and we have to weigh out risk and reward, which is another area. Taking chances is difficult from critical thinking, but it's correlated because critical thinking is, okay, so based on this makes the most sense to do, or this might be the most logical thing that will happen. But like with any new situation, new information comes in all the time. So we have to constantly reframe and refocus whatever that critical thinking paradigm is, because what I thought was true like 2 turns ago before James went into deck builder and ruined everything I had in plan. I'm just saying the man is good is what I'm saying. No, I'm sorry, I got to do my glasses. The man is good at these games is what I'm saying with this. Now I'm channeling my inner Larry David there. A bagel you can eat. So the idea of critical thinking is very important because it's the way that we interface the world, and this idea of making a plan, but further realizing that, just as we jokingly say with RPG, no adventure survives first contact with its players. Most of the time, your plan, I'm sorry, kids, you can't just hope and wish and pray for everything you've wanted to be, and it's going to come true like that. We are going to face adversity, and critical thinking is about taking that new information, wrapping it into the existing paradigm and the plan, and adjusting sometimes on the fly, which is, just kind of a nice little genteel, just so folks were like, what the heck do you mean critical thinking? I don't know nothing about critical thinking. No, Everybody knows about critical thinking. I have $20. What can I buy at the store? You're using critical thinking by using math or planning ahead to do a budget, or, things that other responsible adults, not me, do. So it's just idea of what critical thinking is, that I wanted to kind of just take a moment, James. Plus, I'm going to call on you when I do my RPG review, so we're going to go back and forth on these things.
So you make a plan, you execute the plan changes. Now I need to make a new plan. Is kind of the name of the game as you're going. One of the things that Clank does not do, that some other deck builders do with the idea of a competitive deck builder, there is very, very, very little screw your neighbor mechanics. You really are like playing at the board in a race to get this done, as efficient as you can and score the most victory points possible. And sometimes that doesn't require, I'm going to run down, like smash and grab, get the artifact and run back away. I've seen players that play Clank for the first time do this, get the cheapest artifact that they can, and then just run away trying to do end game. And then at the end of the game, still being like, I don't understand how I lost. There's some nuance to this. There are secret tokens that you can get that give you little bonuses during the game, like a little potion that you can drink that gives you a couple of attack points or a move point. Some of those could mean the difference between getting to where you want to go that turn and not getting to where you want to go that turn. There's a balancing of the economy, and balancing your deck size. What I mean by that is, as you play the game, another thing that Clank does not do is provide a lot of cards for you to trash or KO cards that are in your deck. There's not a lot of deck removal in this particular game.
Yeah.
So as you're buying cards, your deck is going to get much bigger, which means that those cards that you purchased, you might not see them as often. So you want to prepare for that. Yep. You want to, and some of that comes with learning the game, right? But part of critical thinking is being able to have that adaptivity. It's being able to retain that information and then say to yourself, okay, this didn't work the last time that I tried this. What did I do that didn't work? Being able to not only analyze the game, but to really practice and understand your own decision-making and your own tactics. Yeah. Right? And that's hard to do. It's hard to sometimes be critical of your own gameplay, because it's much easier for me to sit at the table and say, dice games, and like that was the reason that I failed, because the dice just weren't with me ever. And
they never are.
They aren't, unless we're playing RPGs, and I can say that, and that's okay. But for a deck building game, part of it, a large part of this really is just the decisions you make during the game. So part of that critical thinking comes in being able to not only make a plan, formulate a plan, execute the plan to the best of my ability. When it doesn't work, I have to develop the skill to then go back over that plan and say, okay, this part worked up to a point. I didn't generate enough movement when I was in the dungeon. I had a lot of attack. I was going to get a whole bunch of gold by killing all the goblins and all this other stuff. But then I couldn't really move as quickly as some of my other opponents, and they were able to finish. Maybe next time I need to diversify a little more.
Yeah, having a key first is irrelevant if you don't have boots to get to the door.
Right. So I think a big part with this game in particular, I find deck builders that have a lot of ways for you to be able to remove and KO cards that are in your deck, so that you can basically get rid of the trash and your starting cards as you're playing, because you want to make moves. You want to make room for the new stuff. Deck builders that allow for a lot of KO it's really easy to kind of plan around that stuff because you can always just like, well, I'm going to thin my deck out, so I'll just go nuts and get all the things,
Yeah.
like spread shot it. Clank, I think, requires more of a scalpel and less of a shotgun when it comes to the types of things that you're purchasing.
Agreed.
Everything in the deck is going to end up having meaning, and it's how you can either make your deck go through the cards in it faster, by having extra draw cards, or having to, be able to discard stuff, or do you have a lot of synergy where the cards that you play are all based around a central theme and you try to gather as much of that one theme as possible so that it still goes off as many turns as you can, because you have an overload, a glut of those types of cards. So you can try out different play styles, but you need to have the evaluation skills, the critical skills, to go back over and figure out what worked for you and what didn't.
Well, and I think that that's something when we talk about, at some point we're going to get very deep into this, but because you and I have been in the gaming hobby for God knows how long, like I remember being raised on the old rolling goes, right? Where your whole thing was very light to no strategy, and it literally was luck of the dice, luck of the draw. Like even Monopoly, so many articles are written about, by a certain turn, who's going to win. So you should probably just stop there and avoid strangulation. But I think that when we talk about something like Clank, as the old Ameritrash versus Euro argument that is just as pointless as the Joel versus Mike argument or the Picard versus Kirk argument. Right. They're all, honey, you're all special, right? But it's this idea of when you play a game like another good one that I know that even though it's dice games, I know it's a game that you enjoy as well, which is Dice City, which is a game where
a lot of fun.
Yeah, where you have a board and you basically you roll and you assign dice and you get resources. You spend the resources on upgrading your town, which gives you access to better machines, but there are paths to victory. And I think a lot of times when people think deck builder, they think it's very simplistic and they oversimplify the amount of complexity that can come in, because that act in a deck builder of the chain. And this is something that, again, I always give you accolades in this area, and anyone who's ever played with Cap knows what the hell I'm talking about, of being able to not only look at the cards in your hand, but also that knowledge, and this plays into your ability to play Magic, which I fully and always will say, thanks, but no thanks. That's Nopeville population jack. I do not have the magic in that area. But that
I see what you did there.
Yeah, see? But that act of taking that knowledge of chain and like, okay, well, if this card does this, because you also, as part of critical thinking, you have to be aware of how much crap is in your deck. Like when you say you have a lot of movement, that's great. But if you have a lot of other cards stuffing it, that movement's coming out in plod, as opposed to a card that might say, if you've done this turn, do this. And then you're like, oh, I want to get cards that do that thing so it will chain. And you have this escalation of action that fits. And it's easier to do it in certain deck builders. Like it's much easier to do it in Marvel, where you're buying like, instinct heroes versus strength heroes or whatever. But I think that there still is, I really do think Clank is a great game, because we actually did this game a few weeks ago, last month, actually, when we did one of our board game meetups. We actually, because pandemic is kind of going away, we had the kiddos from one of our groups meet us at the game store, kind of like, hey, let's actually like hang out in person for a while. What a novel concept. But we played Clank, and it was interesting how truthfully introductory to more complex board game elements this game will serve as. And the themes, because you actually bought a new expansion that we haven't even tried yet.
Oh my god, I totally did. It was an expansion for Clank in Space that adds arcades. You have to play arcade games to earn tokens to be able to get into the bounty hunters like room to get an artifact, and I was so flipped out because in the front of the packaging, there's 4 little light cycle meeples a la Tron. I looked at Jack and I was like, there's light cycle meeples, Jack. I don't even know what they do, and I don't care because they're there. That's great.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, the game does a really good job of introducing a lot of concepts that can get thicker in other board games, but doesn't feel overwhelming. It's just enough, to make it interesting. The other thing that I want to mention with Clank, and this isn't necessarily a critical thinking thing, but one of the other areas that this game really excels in is practicing initiative and risk taking. The idea of risk reward is huge with this game, and having the ability to kind of manage when you're going to take chances is pretty important to the gameplay. I'll give you an example. So there's a lot of cards that come out in the adventure row that have a clause on them that when you purchase this card, this happens. Or when you defeat this monster, this happens. And some of the time when you're purchasing cards or you're defeating monsters, you are generating more Clank for yourself. They are more rewarding. All of the gems in the game have high victory point values, and they let you draw a card when you play them out of your hand. But each of them also generates at least 2 additional Clank on your turn for pilfering that gem, because you're taking a chance. You're going for the more valuable things. Right? So having to generate extra Clank to be able to do things in the game is essentially sticking your neck out and saying, like, okay, I'm putting in the extra possibility that my cubes are eventually going to be pulled out of that bag. And the more cubes that I'm putting in, the higher chance that I'm going to take damage when the dragon attacks. But I really need this thing. Or I'm kind of throwing caution to the wind because I want the victory points because I'm behind, and this is an easy way for me to be able to generate that stuff.
Yep.
So I'm going to do it. It means I'm going to have to move a little faster. You get cognizant of the fact when you look at the amount of wooden cubes you have versus the yahoos that you're playing with that still have like 2/3 of their cubes.
You get to play with the yahoos.
And you're down to like 9.
Yeah.
Of yours,
what? I don't understand. Yeah.
So there's an inherent amount of risk when you're playing this game, and the idea of risk taking and managing it so that you don't, like, there's a difference between I'm going to take a couple of chances versus like, I don't care, like just going at it whole hog. Like I am balls deep in wooden cubes,
Wow. There's an image
that, but like just taking every risk is probably not going to work out for you either. So you have to be able to balance and manage the amount of which your butt is hanging out, versus the amount that you have created some insurance for yourself in the process.
And it is a very creative mix. And as James said earlier, there's a ton of expansions for the base game. It's been out for quite a while. But one of the other, how long? 2014, 15, maybe?
It's been a while.
I was just saying, while you're looking that up, there's also a very special one, which, speaking of Silent Bob being in with us here, that we played was Clank Legacy.
Acquisitions
Incorporated, which it's tied into that storyline, and you play members of the Acquisitions Incorporated team, and it's a great legacy game where you wind up with your own unique, somewhat.
You were close.
Yeah,
Clank was 2016,
wow.
and then Clank in Space was 2017, so a year afterwards.
Hot on the heels, yeah.
But
then I think Mummy was next.
Actually, the underwater one
Okay,
was before
Sunken
the Mummy.
Treasures or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yeah,
You
lots
know,
of variety.
and this game has now gotten to the point where they have there's an adventuring party that you can purchase individual packs that have specific characters from the lore, because there's lore. There's specific characters from the game, and then some that they just created that come with their own meeple and their own starting deck that like reflects their thing. So you can either play with these unique starting decks or the general, you know, like these are the 10 cards that everybody starts with in the game. You need to decide like you're all doing one thing or the other thing. There's no mix and match, because I feel like that would be very unfair. But another thing that I want to add that I think does add some additional fun to this, and it is just a fun mechanic. Renegade has an app.
Oh yeah.
And on that app, there is there's a clank option that adds a lieutenant to the game, right? And the lieutenant has certain things that can take place during the game. Generate 6 purchase in 1 turn, move 4 spaces in 1 turn. And when that happens, you tell the app, hey, I did this thing. And then the lieutenant might get agitated and force other in-game situations that are usually global effects on everybody. But it's just this additional neat thing. And it also comes with a calculator to track your victory points at the end of the game. Like it does all of the calculations for you.
Amazing.
So you're not counting on your own.
Yeah,
you know?
don't be a fuddy-duddy.
App's completely free.
Yep. Don't be a fuddy-duddy. Apps for games are amazing. It doesn't ruin it. It's not, well, it's a board game, so it should stay on the board. You know, don't be that. Don't be like that. Just give it a try. It makes it easier. It adds such a cool level to the game. Is that about all? Our producer is letting us know that it is about time for our first break of the evening.
Yeah, we are going to take a break with that. Check out Clank from Renegade Studios. And Renegade Games.
When we come back from our break, we are going to dive into a review of a brand spanking new RPG that I just got, as well as a Kickstarter announce of one of our most favorite followers, friends, and supporters at the Bodhana group. Yes. But that is a surprise for when we come back. So please hang out here, folks. Tell your friends to come and join us. There's a lot of room in the Bodhanaverse, and we want you.
Good evening. Coming to you, breaking news from the Bodhana cast. We have just been informed here that Ravensburger Games, on top of their line of Disney villainous as well as Marvel villainous, has now decided to go to a galaxy far, far away and bring to you the first of Star Wars villainous. That's right. Reporting this evening, you will be able to purchase this game and play one of 5 famous Star Wars villains. Darth Vader, Asajj Ventress, Moff Gideon, General Grievous, and Kylo Ren. May the Force not be with your heroes. I'm now going to return this to your regularly scheduled program. Thank you very much for tuning in. Again, breaking announcement, Ravensburger Games, bringing to you, in some time in the future, Star Wars villains.
This definitely changes things.
That was a thing that happened.
So, yeah. Wow. And that is the kind of hard-hitting reporting that we pledge always to give to you, or at least when we find out that it happens on the Bodhana cast.
Because sometimes I just look on sites while we're on break. And
does the internet contain information?
I hear.
Is it almost like a super highway?
I'm sorry. Based on the conversation we had last show, I've heard rumor.
And now I'm going to die in a game of werewolf. Okay. So welcome back, everyone. Thanks for sticking in with us here after our first break for the Bodhana cast, the March edition. So we're going to kind of dive into an RPG review. And this is an RPG that is actually part of a series. And truth be told, I got to kind of reveal a little bit of myself here. So I have been a role-playing gamer for a long time, for about 37, approaching 38 years behind the bell or behind the screen, as it were. Now, one of my guilty pleasures in the RPG universe, if you know me, if you've met me, is I love role-playing games that are emulation role-playing games. Now, people may say, well, hey, Jack, what are role-playing games but emulation games? Well, let's dive into that for a second. Because, yes, while you simulate different time periods or genres or things of that sort that are emulation, to me, it's something very special when a game or a designer or a company doubles down on that theme. Like with fantasy and fantasy tropes, they're pretty much all Tolkien, right? Although, like some may say, well, we're like low fantasy or gritty fantasy or high fantasy or whatever. You know, there's different things, but they're all still borrowing from other things. But when you dive down deep into these, and my love with this type of gaming all started way back upon a time with a role-playing game that it was the first role-playing game I ever purchased. It's a title called, it came from the Late, Late, Late Show. And this was designed by a designer named Bradley McDevitt, who I have met and talked with on Facebook. And the whole idea was you were playing as a B-movie actor. That was your character. So if you were a Western B-movie actor, you had a lot of Western skills, horse riding, lassoing, trick shooting, whatever. But the interesting thing was you then took these B-movie actors. Again, this was a staple of the trope of old movies where you're like, wait, I know that guy. I know that gal. Weren't they in, you know, the diabolical cockroach that ate Cincinnati or whatever? Actually, Cockroach That Ate Cincinnati was a great novelty song. Moving on. So I loved this idea, and it really got me in love with this idea of emulation gaming. And one of my favorite companies that focuses extensively is a company called Spectrum Games with Cynthia Celeste Miller, one of my very favorite friends and designers. She has also designed things like Slasher Flick RPG, which emulates Slasher Flick specifically. Then there's Cartoon Action Hour, Retro Star on the Air. But there's another
Now the new
player.
Biff Bam Kapow.
Yes. Oh my God. Biff Gambit, which is available, which is old 60s Batman stuff, right? Or the Green Hornet, or, all of those old cheesy.
Green Bee.
The Green D. I've actually created a villain for Cynthia that I'm still writing up. His name is Hepcat. And it's just going to be like as if Lenny Bruce were a villain on the old Batman 66. He talks in beat lingo, you dig? Like, that's all the thing. And then he has like his Hep Kitties that are like his fighter group. Anyway, there is another player who's been on the block for a little bit, but I just received this, so I want to kind of highlight everybody to it. And it is from Matthew Dawkins and team, because I don't know all of the different folks who are on this, but they came from beyond the grave. So this is actually the second in a series, which is kind of affectionately known as the They Came From series. So so far they came from beneath the sea, which was. You want to do this one because you played this one?
Shout out to Travis Legg, man. We had a great session. It was me and two of Travis's other cohorts. Really, really cool folks. We got to sit down and play a one shot. It turned into a 2-night thing. But man, was that cool! Like, just such a great feel for the system. And this is why, like, I never get into discussions of whether or not all RPGs are emulators, because I try to just be punctual and on time, so that way I never have to get to the table and say, am I late?
Okay.
I'm going to pause until I get the reaction I deserve.
Yeah, I was just going to say, what's going on here? People, there's no applause. There's no, hey, all right. So the whole idea is the idea basically kind of came out of a number of different things. It was love of like old schlock cinema and mixed in with a little healthy dose of like some Mystery Science Theater 3000 love, because the whole idea is this whole series of games, whether it is They Came From Beneath the Sea or the new one, They Came From Beyond the Grave, and I'll focus on that in a sec. It uses Onyx Path story path system, which, if you're familiar, you basically use your points, you put them into your dots, you basically roll a series of D10s. Number of successes and stuff basic on what you're doing is correlated to how well you do things. And the whole idea is about creating compelling motivations for your characters as protagonists, as they have goals and things that they want to achieve as they go through the story. So Beneath the Sea did a whole bunch to like old 60s, where it was always like, think of it as kind of like it could do kaijus, or it could do, any aquatic threat. It could be a bunch of intelligent porpoises, or, a bunch of mussels who literally want to muscle in on people, or whatever,
Or it could even be something like the thing that wore my face.
Right?
Doppelganger.
So what They Came From Beyond the Grave does is it follows into another one of my favorite. Again, I don't like watching horror, but I love role-playing horror. And this game gives you the opportunity.
Makes no sense to me.
It absolutely makes no sense. I don't like being jumped. Okay. I like atmospheric, creepy horror. I don't like jump scares. That is not fun horror to me. Creepy unease where I come away from the movie having to have all the lights on in my house, that kind of horror I like. But like body horror, like all that, that to me, gore and jump scare to me it's not my kind of horror. It's a type of horror, and I don't disavow anyone who likes it, like the lady in the other room. But with this, you can do any kind of horror. Explicitly, it was kind of written with the idea of what they would call hammer horror, which is like a lot of movies that were done in the late 60s, early to mid 70s, where, most of these are ones that were obviously filmed in Italy. But it was things like Dracula's daughter, Dracula's son, Dracula's son-in-law, Dracula's daughter-in-law's college roommate. It was a whole
also played by
series.
Pauly Shore.
Also played by Pauly Shore. All right, role-playing
Gonna get some suckage.
Okay, I was wondering where you were going to go with that. I don't know if you were going to say no Pauly Shore celebrating, but of course I'm now again
Hey, Jack.
continuously happy we're
Jack, this is a
friends.
big night. You want to know why?
Why?
We've finally figured out what it's going to take to get our producer to break into the broadcast to tell us something. We draw the line at the weasel.
That is the line. The line has been drawn.
Apparently.
All right. No, Pauly Shore is amazing. He is not as celebrated as he should be, and it is a shame. I will fully state that.
Jack's opinions do not reflect everybody on the Bodhana cast, and they are Jack's opinions, but go ahead.
Folks, it's been great having a Twitch channel. We'll see you all later. But back to the matter at hand. Hammer horror films and all of these old ones, most of them had like Peter Cushing, and they're British films made in Italy. Like you find most of these on Mystery Science Theater. But the whole idea behind this series basically is you take a trope, which is like your archetype. So again, I'm just gonna kind of pull into some of these little characters. So you could be the mystic. I sense something, I feel something. You pick a hunter.
I just want to make sure I understand this.
Sure.
Hammer horror. It's not the kind of horror that makes you pray because you can't touch the villain. Right?
No, but that is one hell of a joke. No, you can touch this, in fact.
Okay. Because I do understand people yelling, "Oh God, don't hurt him," but
So, for example, you might want to play in your game the Hunter. Okay. So the Hunter is, basically just a badass kind of character that wants to, you're hunting the undead, whatnot.
Would you say that he does what he wants to do and says what he wants to say?
You keep pulling it back to Hammer. I love it.
How far I
love it. I think you could go quite far. But the cool thing is, yep, there we go. They live how they want to play, how they want to play. So you basically pick different aspects of this. So you could be a hunter that is less talking, more doing, or the power lies in my silver cross. And these correlate to what skills or attributes your character would focus on. But then you go further and you pick a trope for your archetype. So your trope might be 3 tropes that you pick. So one might be, say that to my face. You're a threatening badass and nobody wants to get in your bad side. Gain 1 enhancement when rolling command. So you take tropes that play into the conventions of the style. And this is what I'm talking about emulation role-playing versus role-playing that merely kind of simulates or gives kind of a love letter to something. This is a very much deep dive where it examines the tropes. It examines, all of the properties and their conventions. So it really it's kind of like, get it? You're playing to the inside joke to tell a story within that theme. So your goal is to most accurately, in my opinion, emulate that style of media, which again, I love old Hammer horrors. I'm a huge Mystery Science Theater. And actually, the crew at Onyx Path Publishing did a backing level in support of the latest season of, and I can talk about this because it's public here. It's up now. It's amazing. That they did a sponsorship level of the new Mystery Science Theater 3000. So if you go to the Onyx Path website, you will find that they are actually like collaborating, and there will be ads run. And my good buddy Rich, like he got to meet Joel and all these folks that we love. Because going even further, and James, you use this in play. One of the other cool things about the They Came From series is the idea of the quip cards. Do you want to talk a little bit about the quip cards and how those came out? Because it's amazing, right?
So one of the mechanics that I really enjoyed when we played From Beneath the Sea was the idea of quips. The quips were handed out by our GM at the beginning of the session, and they were the quips were themed after certain types of instances. like whether you wanted to be like, it was a line that a badass would say, or, like something sarcastic, or
I have a couple of the hunter quips to give examples, but go ahead.
whatever the case might be. So the idea behind quips is that if you can take these quotes, they're in quotations, and say the line organically in the RPG somewhere, it gives you a bonus. During the game that we played, as the characters were like kind of assembling and showing up on the scene, there was a character that I was familiar with. Our backstories had crossed paths. And when he appeared on screen for the first time, I had looked up from what I was looking at, and I got to use the quip. Oh, if I'd known you were coming, I'd baked a cake. And because I was able to put that in, I got a bonus on one of my on my next roll, because I was able to use this quip.
Yeah, and the idea, like James said, these are stylized. So here's some examples of some hunter quips, and I will say them in a particular style here. So it's, I sign my name in silver. Like, that's just a badass line, right? Or I work somewhere between justice and vengeance. If you want them, you'll have to go through me. So imagine if you're like doing a defense roll or something and you're protecting your party from an onslaught of zombies. This might even be your death scene. It may be one of your goals of the characters. You want to die heroically, right? You're all of a sudden, I can't remember his name, but he's an amazing special effects guru. Actually, Tom Savini. So like if you're playing like a Tom Savini character in a cheesy horror movie, right? And the whole point of this is the fact that this system, again, it uses StoryPath, and the book is wonderful. It comes with different types of style that you can use, cinematics that you want to decide on, whether it's expensive special effects, a cheap set. And again, a lot of these
you decide
things,
the budget of the movie that you're in, or the TV series. If you're doing you're doing an extended campaign, maybe you want to treat it like an episodic type thing, which you can do. You decide the budget.
This series, again, I mostly attributed to Matthew Dawkins, one of the key personnel over at Onyx, but obviously everyone contributes and weighs in on this. On this, it's a phenomenal series, and I wanted to highlight it, one, because I just got my Kickstarter for this particular volume about a week and a half ago or so. But hot on the heels of this, and I'm going to actually drop a link here into the chatter, because they're going ahead and doing it again. Onyx just announced literally 2 days ago. So yes, of course, I'm already in on it. That is a link for their absolutely new Kickstarter that they're doing with 2 volumes. So it's 2 new source books. One is called They Came from the Cyclops Cave. Hey, I wonder what kind of movies those emulate. Obviously, like 7 Voyages of Sinbad, and like all of the old Ray Harryhausen,
Clash of the Titans. Yeah.
Yes. So
Jason
that's one.
Jason and the Argonauts.
Yes. Incredible, right? But on edition is also They Came from Classified, which is another RPG. Like, I loved the old Top Secret Secret Intelligence TSSI game from TSR that was published in the late 80s, early 90s. Incredible game. There's a new version, New World Order Top Secret, but again, using the StoryPath system with this idea, the quips and everything, you could do anything with that, from Austin Powers to our man Flint to James Bond, right? Because there used to be, correct me if I'm wrong, James, there used to be a very, very decent James Bond. It was In Her Majesty's Service, I believe is the title of the RPG, right?
Yes.
Yeah, because that was like, because there's, I mean, a lot of folks are like, oh, I love role-playing D&D. You really got to check your history. Actually, Shannon Appelklein has a wonderful series. Yeah, I'm diving deep on my lore here today, and that's Dutch. But there's a book series that Shannon did called, and it's published, I believe, by Evil Hat now. It's called Designers and Dragons. If you're a fan of the hobby, or if you want to learn more about the role-playing game hobby, I really do encourage you to check this series out because it tells you about all the major players, the development of RPG, a lot of the stuff that happened behind the scenes that caused the ebb and flow of everything. So again, we love history of RPG, but I did want to offer a little bit of time while first of all encouraging you. You are going to see this game because it is going to be appearing in a future episode of Roll for Terror on the Bodhana Twitch channel. But Onyx Path Publishing has been a supporter of Bodhana and Save Against Fear for every year of Save Against Fear. So they've been with us 12 years at this point. And we love so much of what comes out. Not only everything, I mean, they have a ton of different stuff, not just Pugmire and the They Came series, but please check out the link. Go and there's, they just opened it. So there's like 26 days or so left in the Kickstarter, but it's amazing. And I highly encourage you to check it out. I did want to mention, though, that people say, well, you talk therapeutic. What's the therapeutic connections here? Well, in any kind of role playing, there are certain types of stories that you could tell. And the idea of horror for gaming is one that I think is kind of near and dear to all of us because we have used horror themes. We have used supernatural, a lot of the themes that you'll find in a game like this to be able to work on things like anxiety, social anxiety, the things that we fear are a core part of us. And by using role playing to simulate some of these and to play a character that maybe you're afraid of things, so you're playing the hunter, so now you're not afraid of those things. And maybe we can stylize some of these quips and these aspects of the character to more creatively connect to what the client wants to work on. So I think that horror is one of those things people go, well, you can't use horror with a client. Oh my God, you're going to terrify them. And you're thinking too linearly here. You're not thinking behind the surface that if a person is playing in a character, that character offers some shielding or some level of safety from the true self. And it allows us to explore things that maybe we as ourselves, and again, I speak to myself about this. So yeah, it's a great way for us to explore deep themes, things that do scare us, because that's why people watch horror. Even though I don't completely, like jig to the jam or whatever, doesn't mean I don't understand the benefit of horror. Horror is that controllable air of, there is a thrill in being scared, but when you really look into the anatomy of horror and how horror is literally a horror presentation is our way to understand the things in this world that do not make sense. So if you take a classic character, and again, I hope there's no trigger warnings here, but if you look at things like werewolves and vampires, yes, they are a part of lore that goes back centuries, but they are also an examination of human monsters. The werewolf literally is known by examination of trope and history and lore. It is an examination of mass murderers and predators in our society. Think about it, folks. Jekyll and Hyde, werewolves. You're this mild-mannered person by day. I don't know, maybe you work for a prestigious Pennsylvania university, but then you have another side of you that engages in things that don't fit that other part of the personality. So you turn into a monster. It is about the duality of man, how good people can do bad things. Well, maybe they're under a curse. No, they're just making messed up decisions. But the idea of horror is a way for us to explore the things that we are afraid of and the things that have impacted us. So as always, art imitates life. And within the structure of therapeutic RPG, we use the game to imitate life, so that then the person can take increased understanding and self-growth and take it away from that character understanding into the day-to-day, into the real. Was that too deep? Did I bring the room down, James?
No, it's fine.
So yeah, They Came from Beyond the Grave from Onyx Path Publishing. Incredible new title that is available, but also check out They Came from Beneath the Sea. And if you are into this kind of thing, the way that I am into this kind of thing, go ahead and back that new Kickstarter to get you into the Cyclops Cave and into classified files, which is all very cool. So yeah, that is running right now. So I did want to drop one more Kickstarter alert because there's like 5 or 6 days left. And this is from another good friend of us, and it's correlated kind of to our Clank discussion. So I'm actually going to go ahead and call that puppy up as well. But what do you think, James?
Mm-hmm.
You want to start an intro on that while I find the info?
Smirk and Dagger Games, Kurt Covert and company, have a couple days left on a new game that they announced on their Kickstarter that Jack threw his wallet at the computer for, and I applaud him for doing so.
Oh yeah,
Behexed.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm
Dropping
not really sure how to describe this.
Well, they describe it as an unconventional deck building game. So if you're fans of Smirk and Dagger, who was our Follow Friday yesterday on social media, please follow the Bodhana Group at the Bodhana Group on Twitter or Instagram, or just follow the Bodhana Group on Facebook as well. But the idea is, if you know Smirk and Dagger, they specialize a lot in games that feature a take this or a screw your neighbor style mechanic. And actually on our YouTube channel, if you're interested in this, I did a pretty extensive interview with Kurt that is on our YouTube talking about the beneficial aspects of this kind of take that mechanic play, where people are like, well, you don't want to play this kind of games because then your friends don't want to play around the table. Yeah, but how many times do you celebrate in an RPG or a board game where you block someone, like you sufficiently block their move and it's take that mechanic games give you this type of ability. And way back in Smirk and Dagger's past, in addition to Cutthroat Caverns and all the cool games that they do, they had a game called Hex. And the basic game was, it was a fast-paced trick-taking style kind of card game where the whole idea was curses. Kurt wanted to do a little bit more with that in his design team. So what they've created was a deck builder game where the whole goal is to buy cards to give your other players curses and to protect yourself from curses. So it's a fast-paced game where you play as a particular type of sorcerer or magician, and you specialize in a certain style of card play mechanic. Then you buy cards from the stacks, and there's 4 packs that you unlock through play. So the whole idea is you build a deck to protect yourself while giving the rest of the table screw them over. And I actually got to watch some playthroughs of this, and there's even like randomizer field. So it might be this round, well, when a certain player gets this many hexes, game's over. Well, in this one, it's this many rounds, the person with the most hexes, game is over. So there's this randomization factor to it of pick a style, buy cards to add to it. So it's not like a traditional deck builder where it's all about building this massive kind of array. It's a very targeted, structured array, and it looks to be a great amount of fun. Again, we reviewed a Smirk and Dagger game in our previous episode where we talked about the Menace Among Us. So it's a great company, and at this point, there are only 6 days to go to back this game. And yeah, two recommends of some cool stuff coming down the pike that you can check via these links here, or just go directly. So hopefully you catch this episode before those go away, so you get your chance to add a little bit more special to your gaming library. So I think I did a pretty good job there, James, right?
Yeah, well done. Thanks for that, Jack.
Thanks. Thanks, Tom.
So I want to actually move forward a bit and bring a segment back from our first episode. This was motivated by Jack. I'm going to let him start things, and then I'll kind of pepper in where I can. So the next segment we're going to do is Couch Co-op. For those of you that were with us on the first episode, Couch Co-op sounds like we would talk about, like, games that you can play on the couch with your friend, and sure, yeah, that's, I totally get why you would think that. We have done something a little different with this. In the age of now staying at home more often,
world.
There's a lot more options for streaming services. There are movies that hit the theater, and then 30 days later, they're on Paramount Plus, or Peacock, or wherever. So streaming has now become, I think, a larger part, even before the pandemic, of our lives. So Couch Co-op is actually designed to highlight some streaming options for you, and not just your friend or your significant other, because there could be unique situations that might come up, completely unexpected, completely unexpected things, right? So today, we are going to analyze Couch Co-op for what you can view for both you and your pirate friend. Just in case in the evening you wanted to do some Netflix and pilfer, you could absolutely do that.
Yeah, if you walk out your back door and all of a sudden this massive ship has run aground in the parking space in your backyard.
Maybe you want to have a little Hulu and land ho. Whatever floats your boat. It's all there, and most of the streaming services are for sale. Membership has privileges. So
masterfully done, sir.
Thank you. So today we're going to be talking about things that you can watch with your pirate obsessed friend, or maybe just a pirate.
See, now I'm thinking of it. They Might Be Giants parody, which would be better than You and Your Racist Friend. Would be You and Your Pirate Friend. Like, that would be awesome.
So a little bit of a pirate themed humor, Jack.
Go ahead.
What be a pirate's favorite letter?
I would have to guess R.
You'd say it would be R, but actually it's the C.
And this actually goes out kind of also to our best, to one of our bestest buddies, Dave, who is a huge Sea of Thieves player.
Yeah, we didn't know that you were going to be viewing tonight. So hey, extra bonus.
Yeah.
This was motivated because Jack had started watching a show, and I always get excited when Jack watches a brand new show, and not something that's like reruns of MASH.
I'm watching Barney Miller right now, I'll have you know, and Night Court. You see what he's talking about.
Continues to make my point.
Problem.
So when Jack came to me, we were talking about the show, and he was like, "Hey, I watched this new thing." I went, "Go on." So I got to watch most of the first episode. I didn't have a lot of time. I saw it advertised. I really wanted to check it out. It's a new show on HBO Max that just hit within the last, I want to say, like maybe week or 2 weeks.
Yeah.
It's really new. It's called Our Flag Means Death. And I'm going to let Jack take it from there.
So, Our Flag Means Death. It's I say it's a comedy, and I've already posted like on Facebook and my personal wall, people are like, I don't really find it like that hilarious. And I'm like, it's a different style of humor we're talking about here, because it's very much in that kind of New Zealand style. Taika Waititi is one of the persons on it. He wasn't the original kind of progenitor, but basically what it does is it actually is based on a true pirate, Stede Bonnet, who is referred to in history as the gentleman pirate, who was legit a wealthy landowner that one day was like, yeah, I want to be a pirate. And then eventually kind of met up with the Queen Anne's Revenge and Blackbeard. Now, the problem, or the benefit, if you will, is that they were kind of talking about this, and it led to the decision of, there's not a whole lot of history on why he did that or what happened when he met up with Blackbeard. What if we kind of filled in the gaps of history? So there are some historical accuracies to what it is that they're talking about, but there's also a lot of absolutely hilarious. There's a ton of, so first of all, Stede Bonnet is played by Rhys Darby, who you all might know very well. Time for a pirate meeting. That's right. Hello. From most folks know over Fire the Conchords, plus, a ton of other different stuff. Also, later on in this series, but it's no surprise if you check out IMDb, because Stede Bonnet meets up with Blackbeard. Blackbeard is played by Taika Waititi. So it has this weird kind of humor where it's not like because I'm also a huge fan of What We Do in the Shadows. What We Do in the Shadows is even a further different style of New Zealand type of comedy, where that one is kind of a more like balls in your face kind of thing, when you're talking about Jackie Daytona and, all these what? What are they doing? This is a little bit more black comedy where, some of the characters, they're just saying things like having pirates do arts and crafts projects. Hilarious. I won't tell you the process of how that comes in, but you know what I mean, James? So it's not guffaw, over the top silliness humor. It's comedy of situation, which some people do very well, but it's the kind of thing that I found myself sitting there, and after someone says something,
I will say
I'm
in the first episode, hearing the pirates talking about mutiny, because they all think that, that Bonnet's really weak, right? And that he's not a tough guy. He's not going to be the kind of pirate that Blackbeard is, or things like that.
Right.
In talking about mutiny, they start inadvertently doing a pros and cons of having this guy as the captain. And one, the first pro that anybody brings up, and by the way, one of the crew members is the guy that played Hodor.
Yes.
In Game of Thrones, right? So this huge, just wall of guy. And he's like, well, I do like that the captain reads to us at night. And the first pro that they come up with is the fact that not only does the captain read them bedtime stories, but they can't just get somebody else to do it because he does the voices too. And one of the guys is standing there. He's like, well, I can read the story. So yeah, but can you do the voices? Do the little wooden puppet voice. Do the wooden puppet voice, and everybody goading this guy. Oh my God.
Yeah, it's not gut bust, right? But it's very humorous.
It's so a lot of the comedy comes in the actual execution of what a situation comedy is.
Yeah, it's a sitcom at the sea.
Right, but it's not sitcoms have kind of become this thing where the episode is about this one overall situation. The plumber came and put the wrong pipes on the wrong faucets. Uh-oh.
Yeah. Judy has a friend who's on drugs.
The comedy, and this is a reason, one of the main reasons that I think that Ghostbusters survives as well as it does, is because the comedy was about what was going on at the time.
Yeah.
It doesn't expect you to know pirate history to make these references about pirates that only people that have read about pirates would know. It allows you to just be in that moment and experience through the dialogue and the interplay, and the fact that some of these lines are delivered from people that you would not expect to deliver lines like that as you meet the characters a little bit,
right?
But it's comedy about what is happening now.
Yeah, and it's people who you can imagine as real people in that situation, because again, they're not, and again, no hate on 2016 Ghostbusters. We've talked about that so much. Yeah, it's a great movie for the style of humor that it is, which is different inherently from the style of humor that was the Ghostbusters 84. And even Afterlife is different than this. But it's the idea of they're not doing any of these line deliveries with pretense of like setting up the laugh track kind of a thing. So I can see how some people would watch this and go, well, it's really not, gut busting like you would find with like What We Do in the Shadows. Totally different style of comedy. And again, it might not be your bag. That's fine. Again, I think one of the things that I've noticed, not know if this is like a long, like bro conversation, but I was raised on a lot of 60s and 70s and even 40s and 50s comedies, which like, when I grew up, it was, hey, it's Sunday. It's time to watch. Please ask your grandparents, because your parents out there, if you're watching, I have no idea what the hell I'm talking about. But hey, it's Sunday. It's time to watch a Francis the Talking Mule movie. Yes, that was a series, or a Ma and Pa Kettle film, or, one of the infamous On the Road movies with Crosby and Hope, or, all these old things, all the way going down to like Being Human, which was an amazing comedy starring Peter Sellers. And it was totally dark comedy where things were delivered very directly, but it was the humor of the situation and the fact that the character, like at one point, one of the pirates is talking about, they might have to resort to cannibalism. And of course, the gentleman pirate, it was none of this. He's like, well, no, we're not going to eat each other. And he goes, may come up. And he's just delivering it like this totally serious thing where he's like, we're not going to eat each other. Well, eventually it might happen. Like, it's just consigned to like, yeah, we're going to have to eat each other. And
but if it does.
But if it does. So it's that kind of humor. And there are only 4 episodes up. The first 3 dropped last week, and the 4th one just came out this week. So time to catch up, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's not like you're going to be catching up on 3 seasons of this thing, right? Like it's just a couple of episodes. It just started. The cast is solid.
And some of the guest spots that they have as well. I'm trying to remember her name now. It's a connection to 2016 Ghostbusters. Leslie Jones plays a part in one of the episodes.
Oh, okay.
I'm trying to think. He was in Portlandia, SNL alum. I can't believe that I can't think of this guy's name, but I should know it automatically.
I can't believe it's not Butter. All right.
So one thing to definitely watch with your Fred Armisen. Scusi. Okay. Yeah, he also has a part in it as well. It's brilliantly casted and a lot of surprises.
Available now for streaming on HBO Max.
Yes. So Couch Co-op 1. What have you got, James?
Yeah, so some other like pirate themed things that I would highly suggest, and this one is much more on the dramatic side of things, but oh my god, I think like as far as like episodic TV, probably the best you're gonna get for pirates, Black Sails from Stars.
Okay.
Black Sails was I want to say it was like 5 seasons, maybe 6. Black Sails is a precursor to Robert Louis Stevenson's Treasure Island.
Ooh.
The main character is Captain Flint, and it focuses on like the fact that Flint was regarded as like the smartest and like one of the most lethal pirates at the height of piracy, and Flint's crew. Long John Silver's there, and Bones, and all like these characters from the Robert Louis Stevenson novel, and you get the whole like follow up to where Treasure Island would start, and the story of Captain Flint. Really well done as like a dramatic, just high action pirate show. Stars knocked it out of the damn park.
Awesome.
With this one, it's fantastic. So yeah, I can't suggest that enough. Anybody that any fandom for pirates needs to see Black Sails. Now, unfortunately, because it's on a premium network, you have to have stars
Right.
or have a membership with something that has an agreement with stars to be able to have access.
Yeah, I was gonna say Amazon has a stars arrangement. If you have a Roku TV, the Roku channel has a plug-in with stars.
Yeah.
So there are access that you can get it without paying a ton.
There's ways to get to it.
Yep.
Now, some of the easy ones that I can throw at you, these are a couple of movies. The Goonies. Like seriously, you cannot go wrong with that.
Absolutely not.
And it's, I mean,
You
the
find the
Goonies
rich
is a
stuff.
lot about, you know, the kids and everything, but it has a pirate backdrop, and it is a treasure hunt. You know, it is these kids going on a mission to save the Goondocks, you know, where they all grew up together. You know,
also a great kids on bikes style story.
Absolutely.
To connect it all to RPG.
Yeah, one of the
I'm interested if you're going to make a recommendation of one that is in my classic roster. Classic meaning probably not a movie that's going to hold up today.
Yeah,
but I'm interested.
Not. We'll find
probably.
out. Okay. I also I would be remiss not mentioning on Disney Plus the first 3 Pirates of the Caribbean.
Also on Disney Plus, the original Treasure Island movie that was made in the 60s, which still holds up if you're into that pacing.
Yeah, Pirates of the Caribbean, like for me, I really enjoyed the shit out of those first 3 movies.
They're great.
Did.
Yeah.
I love the crap out of those. After that, I tend to want to forget that they happened. But the first 3 movies, Pirates of the Caribbean, Curse of the Black Pearl, Dead Man's Chest, and At World's End.
Yeah.
Really solid trilogy of pirate movies. Really well done. And you know, kudos to Disney for doing something weird with their animatronic pirate things.
Oh, you mean the ride that actually at one point in time had a legit skeleton, like not a prop, like had a legit dead person on the ride? That's how we scared kids.
Another thing on Disney Plus, and this is you know, just in case your pirate friend brings some of his retinue and they have kids, or there's some younger piratelings.
Piratelings?
I don't know what the nomenclature is for that. Muppet Treasure Island. Dude, do yourself a favor.
Absolutely, dude.
If for no other reason than to, like, midway through the movie to see the musical number for Cabin Fever.
We've got Cabin Fever.
Oh my God. Like they took this really scary thing, right? And just turned it into a cabana number. And it is absolutely brilliant. The whole movie is great.
Isn't that one of the last ones that had Jim Henson on the design? Or am I thinking of Christmas Carol?
No.
Was that the first one without Jim Henson, I think? I'm not sure. Because it's one of those two was the last one that he was on.
I don't think it was Treasure Island. But I mean, yeah, there's a bunch of musical numbers in it that are all great. Long John Silver is played by Tim freaking Curry. For God's sake, like, it's so good. You know, so
you're not wrong.
Really, like, just do yourself the favor of seeing that. I get, you know what? While I'm on a Disney kick, I just thought about this. While I'm on a Disney kick, Treasure Planet.
Ooh, yes, a sci-fi take on it.
A lot of this stuff, Disney was like, how can we get the most out of Treasure Island? How can we do that? Well, we got to make one that's like an adaptation of the book. All right, yeah, sure. Like, oh, we could do it with Muppets. Oh yeah, that'd be really great too. Hey, what if we did an animated one but made it future-y? Let's do it. So Treasure Planet is Treasure Island with airships.
Yeah, it's a good,
I think
solid
if I'm remembering
film.
correctly, or maybe this was Atlantis. The Matthew Broderick. Is he in Treasure Planet?
Oh, you don't have to. You don't have to. We're all cool. We're all cool.
Yeah, Treasure Planet was great. Oh, Joseph Gordon-Levitt was Jim Hawkins.
Okay.
It also had Emma Thompson, Martin Short. Brian Murray was Long John Silver. David Hyde Pierce, Michael Wincott.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a
pretty good pedigree. And to find out, the last movie that Jim Henson was executive producer and such on Muppet wise was Muppets Take Manhattan. So whichever movie
I didn't
think
it was Christmas Carol or Treasure Island. I was pretty sure they came later.
Yeah,
it was one of the OG ones.
Now, if I could mention one that, again, it is a different style of humor. I will warn people ahead of time.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Are you going to say it?
Also a movie that's completely riffable. You have to rent it. I looked this up. There's no way to stream it for free. But if you want $4 of just why the hell did I spend $4? Cutthroat Island.
Oh, why?
With Gina Davis, Matthew Modine, and Frank Langella. Awful.
There's there's a huge contingent in the MST3K lobby who all are like, why have you not riffed this movie?
Oh my God.
I don't know why they haven't.
Oh my God, it's the worst.
Yep. Dude, Dave is totally like, I knew it. Cutthroat Island. But that's not my recommend. He also recommended Shipwrecked on Disney and
Swiss Family Robinson. Yeah.
I forgot about those as well. So, Pirate Book recommended by Doug on Stranger Tides by Tim Powers. Much better than the movie implies and very different. So we have a lot of folks weighing in. See, we read too here, or we have friends that read.
I do not.
I read Buddhist books.
Unless it's instructions.
Yeah, I was going to say role-playing games, board games, Buddhist books, and therapy books. That's about all I read.
Yeah, I gotta get back to my Dresden Files at some point.
But, so my recommendation is a comedy, which I believe was put out originally in 1982, stars Graham Chapman in one of his last roles as the enigmatic. Oh my God, I was 10. So this is definitely a movie my father should not have allowed me to watch. Yellowbeard, which is a very adult, ribald kind of take on the character. It has Graham Chapman, John Cleese, Cheech and Chong, Madeline Kahn, and it's all about Yellowbeard, this fierce pirate played by Graham Chapman, who unfortunately was completely like ass deep in his alcoholism at the time. So it was one of his last movies, but it is one of those that I believe that John Cleese plays Blind Pew in it. And it's just this weird take on it. Marty Feldman is in it. So it's a great, in my opinion, it's one of those movies that I remember fondly when I was a kid. I have not watched it in years, but I remember it as being very funny. Some of the humor I don't think may necessarily hold up. But yeah, that a recommend for, if you're into inappropriate humor, it's a decent flick because I love Graham Chapman. He was one of my favorite Pythons.
And thanks to folks in the chat for some additional pirate themed support. So that's I think that was all the stuff that we had for Couch Co-op.
Couch Co-op your pirate friend.
Yep, with your pirate friend. Or maybe they're not your friend. Maybe they're just a pirate showed up and commandeered your TV. And
That is true.
They're looking for a little entertainment. You can, while you're calling the cops, you can put on any of these things. And then
No, and they'll be mystified.
yeah. Then you can yell at them as they're leaving, is like, Yamina!
Why? Wait, what is that? That's not even a word.
I said fire it again, but I said it piratey.
Very nice.
All right. So
I was gonna say before we went into our next segment, would it be time for another break? It's been about another hour. Oh, all right. Folks, that is the voice of our producer, Crimson Pleasure, chiming in. She keeps James and I being have. Oh, they can't. So now I'm a crazy person.
we've just stopped. We're having a conversation that not everybody is privy to the other side. All of a sudden, the Bodhana cast has turned into a Mammoth play. Go ahead.
Okay, they can hear me now. All right.
Hey, see,
y'all made some great pirate movie suggestions.
What did we miss?
No, I don't have a favorite. Okay.
Okay.
But when you were talking about older movies, I have a favorite that gets no love, and I'm gonna throw it out there. And if anybody judges me, I will find you.
Hey, this is a no judgment zone here.
It's like
no, it isn't. Go ahead.
1990s Sylvester Stallone. The movie is Oscar.
Why do I not know this?
Oh my god!
That's more of a mob film.
Yes. I don't know. You were talking about older movies. It's the first thing that popped in my head.
It popped in there.
And it just popped in there because I recently bought this movie on Amazon. I've rented it 4 times and I forced my friends to watch it. So I was like, I'm just going to buy it. And it has such a star-studded cast that were not a star-studded cast at the time.
It is really good.
Including Tim Curry, Marissa Tomei is in it, Sylvester Stallone, Red from that 70s show. There's so many people in it. Yeah. But this
Red Foreman, yes. Television's greatest dad ever.
Yes. If you have the chance, I will watch it for you. I will let you watch it. You send me a message. I will gladly sit in Discord with you and show it. It is an amazing movie.
I would love the best. This is an awesome idea that I would love, because I've been doing this watch party thing with MST3K and Riff Tracks movies. Maybe we could make a movie club in our Discord server.
Yeah, we can do that.
And we could have like a monthly watch with us type of thing.
And for those of you that are here, this is what our production meetings are like. So
actually, yeah, 100% correct. It's just
we're gonna
why
don't we take a short break? And we'll be back in a couple of minutes and close things out. Jack and I are going to bring you. I don't know that we could do it completely without spoilers.
I don't think we can.
But we're gonna talk about Batman.
Yeah.
The Matt Reeves Batman, the new one. Jack and I went to see it, and we're going to talk a little bit about it to kind of close things out. So stay tuned with us. And we'll try to keep it as like spoiler free as we can.
Yeah, as much as we can. We're getting pretty good about that, because I mean, yeah, well, it depends on what people define as a spoiler.
Let's take a break.
We could also talk. Yes,
we'll be right back.
Don't go away. We'll be right back.
do it live.
No, but what you got to understand, James, really is when we're talking about the issue of U.S.-Russian détente, Rocky IV has to come into the equation.
And where does Red Dawn fit?
Well, I think Red Dawn was... Oh, everybody's back. All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Hi.
Thank you for hanging in there, gang. So, before we go to the bat, there was one other thing that I think I made the recommend to you that I just wanted to say for folks out there. I was on a tear this past week watching the new shit, which I know blows your mind. I took the time and I went, I remember seeing trailers for The King's Man, and I gave it a shot. I was expecting it, and this isn't anything spoilery or anything. It's just a solid recommend to check this movie out. It's also on HBO Max. But I thought that it was very much going to be Kingsman or the series, where it was very kind of stylized, kind of hip with the Sam Jackson type stuff.
Oh, that reminds me.
This was like,
is there anybody else you
historical
could think of
piece,
for the Black women in horror?
Very dramatically presented, not really like a gutbuster or everything, and I was riveted.
I know. I know. I'm going to moderate
incredible.
It, and I'm the one who put.
And you know me, dude. I don't think on historical. Yes, I was literally like this,
like a high rise.
Yeah, there wasn't tons of there were action pieces and stuff, and it was very nice, but it wasn't that hip stylized the way that the original Kingsman movie was. So I was pleasantly surprised that if you're into it and you love, I mean, Ralph Fiennes was absolutely amazing as always. A lot of cool twists and turns in it that I was like, oh shit, I didn't expect that to happen. Like it was very well presented. So I highly recommend The King's Man, which is kind of a prequel to the Kingsman series.
Did they hang the bad guy by his foot from the top of a mountain and yell, "Swear to me!" like when they were trying to get in?
No, they didn't have a lot of bad energy there.
All right, so yeah, I didn't mean to bail on this conversation, but I wanted to. I am on fire tonight. So,
are you sure your superhero identity tonight is not the Punisher? Are you sure that it's...
So, for those of you that have been living in a cave, but not a bat cave, the new Batman movie hit.
There's a new Batman movie?
Yeah, there was. We went to go see it.
Yeah.
In a theater with other people.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we went and saw The Batman. This is directed by Matt Reeves, starring Robert Pattinson as the titular character. Paul Dano playing the Riddler. Jeffrey Wright as Commissioner Gordon. Andy Serkis as Alfred. Zoe Kravitz, wonderful performance
as the woman of Cat.
Yeah,
and as the Penguin, very surprisingly well done.
Yeah, Colin Farrell.
Yeah, didn't look like himself at all. Oh my god,
he was fan-freaking-tastic, man. Mm-hmm. So overall impressions of the movie, I just want to start by saying thank you for remembering that Batman is a detective. That doesn't, I don't feel like that's really highlighted well. This whole movie feels like Seven.
Yes.
Or
Chinatown
in some ways. This movie is very much a mystery first, which is why I want to keep this as spoiler free as we can.
Absolutely. Yep.
And the story does not
when you got up to
necessarily go the way that you're expecting it to go. There are some things that are
he sat down
somewhat
in
predictable.
Your chair Warren did.
And there are some
and
other
he like
things that
waved, and I
are
said Crimson,
really
and he
not.
said like I pointed
Some
to
of
myself,
the decisions that they make with
and he
characters
said
that we're very
Crimson, and just
familiar
went
with.
back to what he was doing.
They go in not offensive but like interesting directions.
Yeah.
I want to talk
Yeah,
first,
yeah, you are.
because this always gets analyzed the first time that there's a Batman movie. Let's talk about Batman / Bruce Wayne. The
Good place
Batman
to start.
the Batman picks up with Bruce already having started his guardianship of Gotham.
I'm on it.
Sorry.
He's in like year,
Cool.
he's in like year 2 of being the Batman, and they present it really well in the beginning of the movie. The way that they kind of portray him and his presence over Gotham City, right? So much like Casino Royale, for Bond, it was James Bond's like first major mission, right? Mistakes were made, right? The Batman is still very much like an ass kicker, still very much a, silent, dark.
He's a Dark Knight.
Like, not the dude you want to run into,
Mhm.
all those types of things. Still feels sometimes like he's like for all of the skill that he has and as much of a detective as he is, still feels like he's a couple steps behind.
Yeah.
In parts of the movie, which is great. That it's not just, the one of the knocks, like, well, you give him time to prepare. Batman has a plan and he wins every time. Like, this Batman does have a plan. It just always doesn't go the way that he's necessarily intending it to go.
And I definitely like that aspect of how they're not, because that's often a criticism of a lot of superheroes in general. Like, nothing can beat them. I mean, it's critically, Superman is probably one of the most classic examples of like, oh, he's an interesting, compelling superhero. So, why don't we make him a creeper in Superman Returns? X-ray vision to spy on Lois Lane. But
so
I liked it.
Another thing, like, I hear a fair amount of the time when you're talking about somebody that's portraying Batman, the actor's portrayal of Bruce Wayne versus the actor's portrayal of Batman. And let me give some perspective here. Michael Keaton, Val Kilmer, George Clooney, Christian, to some extent, Christian Bale, even though Bale, his Bruce Wayne, we followed along and we got like a lot of the how he became Batman, right? But the actual execution of it,
you forgot Adam West.
Kind of been doing it for a bit. That's not a thing. I understand, but it's not a thing for what I'm about to talk about.
Okay.
The portrayal of Bruce Wayne versus how they portray Batman, I feel like, is an unfair comparison, as opposed to saying, well, I really like the way that Tobey Maguire played Peter Parker, but I didn't necessarily like his Spider-Man. Or, man, Christopher Reeves was a really great Clark Kent, but his Superman felt weird, right?
I will fight someone on that one. He set the tone for Superman.
I think for Bruce Wayne / Batman, you have to understand that Bruce Wayne is the beard in that relationship. Okay? Bruce Wayne is not the person that Bruce Wayne wants to be. Like Bruce Wayne is actually he's not the alter ego. Like Bruce Wayne is the secret identity. Right? Like Batman is the person that he wants to be. And I think more so than a Superman Clark Kent or a Peter Parker Spider-Man, or things like that. There's a lot more bleed over. Clark Kent can see something terrible happening and he can be like, I have to stop that. Right? But Clark Kent still gets up in the morning and goes to be Clark Kent because it's something he has to do. And there are days where he wants to do it. Peter Parker still has a life to live. Bruce Wayne could give two shits about anything that Bruce Wayne needs to do, which becomes very apparent in the movie. And I think it's like, I get people saying like, well, I didn't see much of a difference between Bruce Wayne and Batman. Good. You shouldn't. Like, because Batman and Bruce Wayne are like kind of the same thing. It is way more difficult for Bruce Wayne to be Bruce Wayne. That's why Bruce needs Alfred.
Well, and there were different ways of interpreting that when you were mentioning about other Batman Bruce Wayne scenes and such. Because when you look at Keaton's performance and you analyze that, I think that there was some accuracy feeding into what you're saying, because he played Bruce Wayne more as kind of like a distracted, almost addlepate, where it was, I don't want to fucking do this. I don't want to do this like ball. Hey, look at this cool room of weapons I have. Like, you know what I mean? I think that again, I do think Burton could be a little too Burton on some of his things, but I do love as much as I love the camp of Adam West, and I will sing its praises forever for what it was.
And I don't want to ignore Adam West, but like
right.
the 60s Batman does not, like with what we're talking about.
Oh, it's not in the same canon, right?
It's apples to oranges.
Right.
Film portrayals of Batman, much like old coffee, like get darker and grittier as time goes on. But I think it's really important for this particular one, and maybe it's because I'm a little defensive of Robert Pattinson.
Someone has to be,
and it's just because when we heard Robert Pattinson's going to be the next Batman, and immediately I knew that the troglodytes were going to come out of the cave.
Right. Nerd rage I sense.
Yeah, and be like, what, the dumb vampire from Twilight? Is Batman gonna sparkle? Ha, 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 ha. Dude, shut up and watch a movie. Like, Pattinson's got range. Robert Pattinson's done some really good stuff.
Well, that's a non-spoilery. But that's a non-spoilery thing to say about this movie, is that the casting and the portrayals were fantastic.
Great.
Everyone was
absolutely
on
great.
Deck, like, because it's not spoiling anything, but the relationship alone between Jeffrey Wright and Pattinson as Batman and Gordon was key. Like, there was not a missed step in that relationship. Oh, but you got to say the one thing that's not really a spoiler, but it's kind of a gentle relief. We didn't get an origin story.
No.
Which is fantastic.
And as a matter of fact, if you notice, they don't even bring up how Bruce's parents died.
Yeah.
It's the fact that they're dead. Good enough. They don't talk about how they died. They don't have like pearls flying off of a neck. There's no like smoking gunshot.
There's no roses left at Crime Alley.
Like, there isn't even a mention of Crime Alley. It's just the fact that Bruce's parents are dead. and that he was, as a young child, left in the care of Alfred, who comes across as this guy that has tried to be a father, but very much knows that he was not qualified to do so and never wanted to do this, but stepped up because he felt like he owed it. And that relationship between Gordon and Batman is so great, and it's also paralleled by, I think, a somewhat different feeling relationship than you normally get between Bruce and Alfred.
Yeah, I can agree with that. It's a great thing to see.
Bruce going out and doing this every night for years on end has not worn Alfred out at this point, because they've been doing it for like 2 years, right?
Right.
And Alfred, like, still kind of believes that this will, like, we're doing this, but it may not necessarily, like, be the whole thing we're doing the whole time. And I'll buy that. I think that's probably true.
Not a tea set, that's a Horcrux.
Well, it's probably a series of tea kettles.
It is.
That are the Horcruxes.
Yeah. It's the whole
set.
So,
Alfred has the, like, between Bruce and Alfred, it comes out sometimes almost as standoffish. Right? Like, there's a little there's some resentment there. Bruce has that, just shut up, get off my back. And Alfred's like, okay, fine, make your own mistakes.
Yeah.
But while they have that, like, face to face, then it's them giving all of the shits about each other.
Yeah.
The whole time. Like, I don't want to make it sound like these two don't like each other in this movie. They very much do.
Well, all of the relationships in this movie, again, no spoilers or anything. Even one of my personal favorites sees in this movie John Turturro as Falcone.
Yeah.
I have a healthy love for John Turturro, whether it's quiz show or, because everybody says, "Oh brother, where art thou?" But I knew him. Barton Fink is a phenomenal movie of his. I also even loved him in Brain Donors, which was a comedy movie that was essentially a early 90s redo of the Marx Brothers' A Night at the Opera, using ballet as the forefront. Comedy I swear by.
Also in Rounders.
I have never seen that.
We're gonna have to talk at some point.
Yeah, definitely. But all of the thing I think is usually when you watch, and I think it goes back to what you said about this being, when you were saying about it being a detective story, there is a genre that, when tied to its true roots, is compelling. And that is the idea of the true detective noir. And they're referred to, of course, as neo-noir because it's in our modern setting. But you could stack this movie up, in my opinion, and again, fight me, internet, you could stack this movie up against Chinatown, and it would give it a run for its money. And there's it's if you've never seen Chinatown, it's a classic Jack Nicholson flick. And I think The Two Jakes is the sequel to it, or the prequel to it, or whatever. But just noir is such evocative, and it relies upon relationships, and the relationships of all these characters, and how they have, like, camps where in this circle these two people know each other, but in this circle this person knows this person who doesn't know the other person. Those layers of relationships and the way that they conflict with each other is so beautifully done by way of the portrayals of the people in those roles. They could not have made more perfect casting. Like, I'll say that 1,000 times over.
And then, like, you have the Riddler, who is this dude's a scary guy. the Riddler knows something that the rest of us don't know, right? But to communicate this, it's not Jim Carrey prancing around on the screen going he everywhere.
Right.
It's not Frank Gorshin rubbing his hands together. Yeah, you know, like this Riddler, to communicate this, wants all of the information that he delivers to the public, to Batman, to Gordon and the cops. He wants all of it to be impactful. And to do that, it has to be done in digestible bits.
Mm-hmm.
And he's leading the people that need to know. What I thought was truly brilliant about this is he's leading the people that need to know parts of this information down their own path.
Yeah.
Right? Batman needs to be the one that has like big picture. Right? And the Riddler, clearly, as the movie goes, has real reverence for Batman. Right? Like it's not just this like, you know, I'm playing games with this person.
Yeah, it's not mustache twirly.
Right. Like there is actual like respect there. The Riddler sees Batman as an equal, as somebody that is on his level. Right? But he also knows information that even the Batman doesn't know. Right? So he's got to give the Batman the information that Batman needs, but it's not the information that he's going to give Gordon and the cops, because that's not the information they need. They need different information to go and do the thing that he needs the cops to do. Batman needs to do the things that he needs Batman to do. And he leads these things down these intertwining, intersecting roads, the whole movie, and then mesh into that Gotham's underworld. Which has always been really rich with these characters that, like, if you don't read Batman comics and you hear Maroni,
Falcone,
you start thinking that, like, this is just, like, is there another mobster named Berea?
This is Farfalle and Cavatappi and what other pastas
Farfalle
we
and
got on the
Ziti,
shelf?
you know, like, no, these are not pasta names, right? Like, these are criminal underworld mob bosses that figured very heavily into Batman's lore. It's obviously like very much become about the, you know, his villains and such. But there are some people that can like really ground Batman stories into this, you know, more realistic thing. And they really did. There's nothing fantastical in this movie.
Yeah.
This movie is very much grounded in a reality of, you know, like this guy that has decided to take the city's stewardship into his own hands and become a vigilante. And there are some like I still don't know how he can take automatic rifles from like that far away and just pating, like that was a little jarring, but I still
but
like.
But it wasn't as jarring as Black Widow falling from like 12 stories up, hitting 8 different hard metal surfaces, and then just getting up and running away. Or, hey, I'm going to be in this car that rolls over like 20 times.
Because I'm doing hero shit today. Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I get it.
The gritty,
I have
the
my
realism.
hero pants on.
Yeah, exactly. Aspirin. That's a fine thing for an Avenger.
There were a lot of things, like even Batman's gadgets made sense to me. And there wasn't an over-reliance on gadgets.
Yeah.
You know, like a lot of it was just his prowess. And I love that one of the underlying themes in the movie, it's not overstated here, but like one of the underlying things is that Batman is in fact a dude, and he just can't be everywhere in the city at the same time. But he has made such an impact that criminals see a dark alley and they're like, yeah, I don't think I want to commit crime tonight.
Yeah.
You know, just in case he happens to be in that alley watching me, waiting for me to do the crime.
Yeah. I'm on Netflix and chill tonight.
Yeah. I'm gonna Hulu and Landho.
I'm gonna HBO Max and relax.
Yep.
How many more of these can we do?
I really very much enjoyed the portrayal of the characters. I think about the only thing, and you're never going to nail everything. I really like. I truly believe, like, there's things that are going to be lacking a bit. I will say that for Nolan and his Batman movies, Gotham itself felt like a character, right? Like with the Reeves Batman, like it's just a city.
Yeah,
there are living, breathing parts of it. But I did enjoy that, like, Gotham itself, was even like kind of a character in the Nolan films.
Well, and that's the importance of, because the Gotham was a character in the Nolan films, explicitly because Gotham was being saved. Like, if you talk about the first movie, I believe it was the first movie with Ra's al Ghul, you're talking all about, then Gotham was the damsel in distress in that movie, and it was, Ra's al Ghul is trying to heal it this way, Bruce wants to save it the other way, or whatever. But again, that goes back to that idea of noir. It was a 3-hour movie. I did not.
It was a 3-hour detective movie. Yeah, it was a 3-hour detective story, and I wasn't sitting there going,
yeah. Which is hard to do, but if you do it well within the confines of the noir genre, you have your. It's like another one of my favorite examples is A Few Good Men. Everybody, you're goddamn right, I ordered the code right. Yeah, okay, that's like one friggin' scene, but the whole movie is clues, information. There's no sex scenes, there's no car chases, there's no gunfights. It's literally a fact-finding mission. It's like marine noir.
And speaking of like no sex scenes, let's talk about Catwoman. Let's talk about an actual Catwoman that, like, just over delivers and is so good.
Yeah.
Zoe Kravitz is fantastic. Like, oh my God.
Yep.
And there's no, like, I mean, there's attraction, there's tension there, right? But there's no, like, keep the masks on. You know what I mean?
Right, like sycophant longing. Although I know a lot of female fans who are like, is this the bat that will go downtown and be allowed to do so?
So, I mean, Selena very much in the movie has her own motivations. And it's not, she doesn't have like supernatural, like 9 lives, right? There's a lot of cat references. But she has her own reasons, and they make it really damn clear through most of this movie. Like, Batman and Catwoman are working together because it is convenient for both of them.
Yeah.
One does not necessarily need the other, and both of them can absolutely take care of themselves. Right? Catwoman is not ever really like a damsel in distress.
Yeah.
In this movie.
Agreed.
She doesn't constantly like get herself in situations where she needs Batman to bail her out. And Batman isn't this preachy, like, you could just not do crime, kind of thing.
Right.
If anything, Bruce leans on the fact that she's willing to get her hands a little dirty to try and get some stuff done. So I was amazed at Zoe Kravitz's portrayal of Catwoman.
They were respectful in general, I think, of all of the characters in terms of them having, like, again, everything didn't revolve around Batman. Like, Batman was literally caught in other people's shit. which is noir. You are a detective trying to pick up the pieces, and they don't want you to find the pieces. So I like a Batman that fucks up. I like a Batman that makes mistakes, that is not, like you said, the perfect strategist. Well, I just happen to wear my kryptonite pinky ring today. Soups, here, I'll drop it in your drink. It wasn't at all heavy-handed, I didn't think, because even the Dark Knight aspects, like he was portrayed very realistically as not the tortured soul and the blah blah blah. No, I loved, because again, we find this every time. Mr. Mom's going to be Batman. Screw you. And it's like, what? Well, Keaton's pretty good. He's best Batman now. What, Val Kilmer, really top secret, is going to be like, break. It happens every time. Heath Ledger is going to be the Joker. Like, what are you talking about? Like that? Come on, nerds. Just watch it first.
Let it play out.
Yeah, let's see how it goes. And let's be pleasantly surprised again. And again, here's my other rant. Could we please appreciate that at this fact in our culture, no one bats a lash at the prospect of a Batman movie or a superhero movie. Whereas in 1989, the idea of doing a Batman movie that wasn't squeaky clean like the Christopher Reeve Superman, which even at that time was, oh my God, what are you, insane? You're going to tank the entire studio. We're getting different representations of characters. It is building a robust, let's not even go into, we could probably do a whole series of shows on the DC animated properties that are on HBO Max as well, right? And just all the great story, because we didn't even talk about upcoming. We're going to have Flashpoint, and so Keaton's Batman coming back in that,
Yeah.
Great stuff.
So you should absolutely see it.
Yes.
The mystery resolves well. I feel like it wasn't ham-fisted by the end of it. We weren't
not
necessarily led by the nose. There are some twisty bits in it. The Penguin was a little more important than I thought he was going to be. I kind of just figured him to be like the obstacle before Batman gets to the Riddler. That was not the case.
Yeah, they didn't fall into mini boss syndrome.
Yeah, which often happens when you have multiple villains in the same superhero movie. You have to deal with this guy's shenanigans, and then you get to the big bad. That was not the case here. They were intertwined in this overarching story, in this overarching mystery. And it really was a Batman mystery. It was pretty well written. I don't have a lot to say, boo about this thing. I know Jack has one thing, but we can't really talk about it.
Can't talk about it.
Nope. So we're just
next month, maybe.
Yeah.
Because I know that next month we're definitely going to have some Moon Knight to talk about, because by that time we will at least have 2 or 3 episodes of Moon Knight. Because also we have Morbius was pushed back. The Multiverse of Madness, that was pushed back minorly. But still a lot of great superhero properties coming out and other great nerdy stuffs. So
yeah, and it does seem like Warner Brothers might be taking their past failures a little more seriously, as far as like
a little bit
the things that they're putting out. I don't know that it's going to hold up, but they seem to be putting a little more care into the properties and how they're being treated and the things that they're putting out.
I think that DC is learning, specifically with, now people could say what they want about Titans on HBO Max, but I think with like Doom Patrol, James Gunn's The Suicide Squad, Peacemaker, I think that DC is lightening up a little bit. If I can say that to a degree, like, yeah, they do dark stuff. Like Doom Patrol is very tongue in cheek. It's like I could talk forever about Doom Patrol, and I didn't know anything about. I never read a Morrison comic, so I don't know the history or anything. And it's a phenomenal show. But like through that, Peacemaker, like the taking jabs, like when you watch Peacemaker and there's all those jabs at the DC universe. I don't even know if we want to spoil any of Peacemaker because that ended beautifully. So you have to watch that as well. Even if you're like, man, fucking John Cena. John Cena had range, my man. Like they're really making good use of a lot of these characters.
They also made me want a Vigilante series.
Oh my God, yes. Yes.
Like I want Vigilante.
I would watch that tomorrow.
I want the adventures of Vigilante and Diebeard.
No, you're not wrong, man. It's a great time to be a nerd.
Yeah,
so let's celebrate
as spoiler free as we can talk about Batman. Go see it. It will not let you down. I think it's an excellent entry into this, series of Batman movies that have been out over the years. Giving us a younger, less established Batman is a really good way to go.
Yeah.
I'm
looking forward for the rest of the series as well.
Yep.
So yeah.
So I think like that about does it for Jack and I tonight.
Just again, a couple of quick reminders. If you are in the Lancaster area, please come out and check us out at Zenkai Con, which will be March 25th through the 27th. We are not only going to be having a booth and some table space telling you about all of our wonderful projects. We're also going to be doing some fundraising there, so you can stop on by, make a donation to us, or pick up one of our books on therapeutic applications of either role-playing games or board games. You can also do our traditional Buck a Duck at the table, which is our signature nerdy rubber duck. So we've been using since, I believe, Save Against Fear 2, or maybe 1. But yeah, so myself and James will be there, as well as Matt and Sarah, two of our phenomenal volunteers and Bodhana Brigade members. Please check out our new website design at www.thebodhanagroup.org to find out all kinds of information. And like I said, we're going to be opening up some new groups. We're also going to have, we also have some fine programming coming to you for the rest of this month. I am always forgetful of these things. So if James, do you have the dates ahead of you? Because we have 2 new shows this month that are dropping, correct?
Yeah, don't put me on the spot at all. I have it. Yeah, I just had to quick bring it up and cover myself.
What?
So next weekend, we are going to be having a guest GM come on and run a game for us in a new show that's called We'll Do It Live. Where we are going to give other folks a chance to come on and run their games and or just run games for us, if they're GMs that are just, they just want to run a game. And that'll be role-playing shenanigans. The 20th, Jack and myself will be joining Bobry Sheldon for a new show called Table Boundaries, where we are going to talk about creating and maintaining safe spaces at the table and different subjects around the idea of safe space and safe play. So that'll be a new show that's going to be starting on the 20th of this month. And then the weekend that Jack and I are away at ZenkaiCon, there is nothing happening. So be on the lookout for not that.
And then we will, so after March is done, we will go ahead and resume our regular scheduling with first weekend will be, of course, Coffee with Crimson. So yeah, we have a lot of great programming. Thank you all for hanging in there with us while we're getting everything started and getting it more regularly. Starting a new channel is always a tremendous undertaking with a lot of people behind the scenes making this happen. But we want to thank you out there, the crowd, the listeners. So tell everyone that you know about this wonderful channel and all that we have to offer. And please game. Please take care of yourselves and everybody else, because that's really what it's all about, right?
I love watching Jack say goodbye at the end of a show. I lived for this during the showtime.
I'm trying to make it shorter. Now who's dragging it out?
Thanks for hanging in, everybody. Thanks for watching. Hope all is well with you and continues to be well with you.
And I believe we have a new subscriber tonight.
Yay!
I believe Silent Bob. Now Silent Bob signed on as a subscriber, so thank you. And I think that's about it. So
thanks for viewing, everybody. We'll see you next month.
yes, watch the Batman.